seasoned investors. This is sort of a bi-weekly thing at boston.com/hive where Scott sort of moderates these discussions and sort of gets people to ask the hard questions and give some great answers and really get into what is it like, the funding process, and really kind of showcasing a lot of the great innovative companies in Boston. We launched the Hive about a month ago to better showcase a lot of the great work that Scott's been doing in terms of covering the innovation economy, but also to better highlight sort of entrepreneur stories, investor stories, and the sort of the whole totality of what's happening in innovation in Boston. And so we're really happy that FutureM was interested in hosting this event, and we're really happy to sort of get some very, very cool companies profiled today. And we hope that you come back to boston.com and check it out live at lunch, live over lunch every other week at boston.com/hive. So Scott, take it away.
All right, thanks, Michael. I'm pleased to see that we're both sort of wearing our elbow pads today, sort of showing our true Tweety journalist pride, wearing elbow pads at FutureM. We're excited to see you guys here for the live session. We're happy that all of you are watching the live stream. And basically, we're kind of going to do 3 separate segments here. So we're going to ask for your patience if you're in the room as we kind of go through startup pitch number 1, startup pitch number 2, startup pitch number 3. There may be some breaks in between. We want to invite you to interact if you're watching the stream, or if you're here, we'll take questions. We'll have a roving microphone because we're interested to hear not just what Todd Dagres from Spark Capital has to ask each entrepreneur, but what your questions are as well. And basically, the idea of the Entrepreneur's Grill is to give entrepreneurs a chance to sort of talk about what they're working on, showcase new products, and then get a little friendly grilling, the sort of thing that they would get when going to pitch an investor in real life. And today, as I mentioned, we have Todd Dagres from Spark Capital, imported way over from Newbury Street, where his firm is based. And they're an investor in many companies that you know of. Runkeeper would be one, Twitter, Tumblr. Who else, Todd?
Foursquare.
Foursquare, perhaps you've used. And how about some of your portfolio companies right now?
I have a company in town here called Jana, which I'm pretty excited about, which is an emerging markets mobile advertising marketing company. So that's
spun out of MIT?
Spun out of MIT. I have another MIT spin out that's out on the West Coast that's making organic LED flat panel screens that will usher in a whole new generation of flat panel screens.
All right, cool stuff. Well, thank you for being here. And our first entrepreneur that we're going to have present to you is Tim White. He is the founder of Chrysalis Guitar, joining us today from New Hampshire. Yes, Tim?
That's right, New Boston, New Hampshire, great little town up in the hills west of Manchester.
And he has brought an assistant with him, Harvey Reed. Thanks for joining us, Harvey. We're going to start off with some entertainment here. And Tim, so with the pitch section of the show, assuming that all of our microphones are working.
Got it.
We're going to give you 2 minutes to give us kind of the overview of what you're up to at Chrysalis Guitar.
Okay, well, I should say first that the guitar business is pretty big. Worldwide, there's about 4 million guitars sold every year. It's to a youth market, so the demographic is growing. When I was young, I played guitar and I loved it. A lot of my friends did too. And I became fascinated with the power of the guitar to change people. How did a vibrating string end up making something like Woodstock happen? That to me was a fascinating trail of events. So after college, I spent several years getting very deeply involved in the study of guitar making, the history of guitars, how guitars make sound, the study of guitar acoustics, also how your mind perceives the sounds that guitars make, and how guitars have the effect on your mind that they do. It's very, very fascinating stuff. So I built guitars for a while, and I was trying to figure out a way to make guitars better. Guitars are wonderful things, but they have a couple of problems due to their typical construction, and that is, one is their lack portability. A guitar case is a real pain in the neck to schlep around. And the other is a guitar needs to be very precisely set up to sound good. And with traditional construction, it takes a professional technician to keep a guitar in good shape, and they're not always available. So I thought for years how to solve these problems with the guitar, and I came up with a design over time that you see ahead, in front of you here. The Chrysalis guitar has the form and function of a full-size guitar, but it is also super portable. We'll show you how it comes apart a little bit later on here. And it is also extremely easy to keep in precise setup, so a musician can keep it perfect all the time. Now, some years ago, I built about a dozen of these prototype Chrysalis guitars, and musicians loved them. There's one in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts in their musical instrument collection. The problem was that they took me about 200 hours a piece to make by hand. And so the project got as far as making the first set of prototypes, but not further, because I couldn't figure out how to manufacture them and fund it at that time. There's a very high upfront charge in tooling and engineering. But nowadays, there's new tools available. There's crowdsourcing and manufacturing technology of these graphite composites has advanced, particularly in the area of tennis racket manufacturing, where it's basically the same kind of techniques are required there, same materials. So there is a engineering basis for this. So my goal is to manufacture these guitars. They're made of 8 interlocking pieces. And the next step on this project is to engineer these parts for manufacture and then to have the tooling made, the precision tooling that's required.
All right, so a little bit over 2 minutes, but we also want to hear the guitar. So Harvey, we're hoping you can give us a little musical demo.
Yeah, I have one of the original prototypes, and I've been using it on stage for many, many years. You wouldn't expect a professional cyclist to use a take-apart bicycle, but this solves all my problems. Being heard on stage, sounding good, and looking cool. I use this to replace my blues slide guitar that I can't take on airplanes anymore because they don't want big chunks of metal. And this thing has no upper limit of volume the way acoustic guitars have, and the very things that make a good guitar, the resonance and all the complexity, are the very things that make it a difficult thing to operate on stage. And when you take away the body of the guitar, then now there's electronic tools that you can introduce the resonances and the reverbs and the things, and actually the body of an instrument is really an annoyance when you're in a performing situation, so that's why I use them. I could give you a nice demonstration of how a regular guitar would feed back horribly. If you want to hear a little feedback, we could do that. It's a nice clear, it's real music, it's not a toy.
And can you show us how it comes apart?
I can. You want the sound on or off when I do that? You would like to hear it come apart? Never. Take the neck off. And the body comes apart, but it's about a it's plugged in. It's about a 5-second job, and you can. I've actually once took it apart on an airplane when they wouldn't let me put it in the overhead. And I put it in my coat. I have one of those high-tech coats that with a lot of pockets, and so you can actually wear it to the gig if you want. I'll turn the sound back off so you don't have to hear the sound of it coming apart. But you can let's unplug it and give him the net here. He can hold it with his hand.
What's that?
Do some macrame here if you want to.
Don't get the wires mixed up.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the secret to how this guitar comes apart and goes back together is on the headstock there's a lever which has a cam action so that when you flip the cam up, the guitar's up to pitch that quickly, so you don't have to sit there tuning it. I think my record for taking a guitar apart completely and putting it together is 17 seconds.
All right.
So we can demonstrate that at the end here.
Cool. All right, so Todd, first questions that come to your mind seeing the pitch for Chrysalis.
How does it stay tuned? How does it automatically tune?
It doesn't auto-tune. When you put it together, if you're lucky, it'll come back just about exactly to pitch. Typically, though, you do have to do a little bit of fine-tuning, as you would with any guitar that you take out of a case to play.
Okay, what do you sell it for?
The first set of prototypes were sold for between $2,000 and $7,000. Sounds pretty. That's pretty good. The target is to sell it for between $600 and $1,000 for retail price.
And what would your cost of goods be on that?
Well, we're aiming for $100 to $150. A standard, retail guitar retail business. We're selling through stores. The cost of goods is 1/6 of your suggested retail price. So that's the conservative model. If we decided to go purely online, then it would be, could be less.
So how confident are you that you could manufacture this for $150?
Well,
the carbon fiber alone would be a good chunk of that, wouldn't it?
Right. Well, if you look online for the wholesale manufacturers of tennis rackets, they sell for between $7 and $10 in quantity finished.
Have you ever played a tennis racket?
Well, you'll see that I won't do it. The major pieces of the guitar are actually very close to a tennis racket in size and shape. So I have confidence that they could be made.
All right, so let's assume you can make it for $150, you can sell it for under $1,000. So I think that hits a part of the market, probably the middle of the market. It's not the real high end, it's not certainly the Yamaha kind of bottom end of the market. So you're kind of hitting the fat part of the market, I get that. So who's the customer?
The customer is anyone who would like to carry a guitar around. They have their iPhone, they have their iPad, and they don't want to schlep a great big guitar around. The guitar can be made very small. You see the case in front here, that's the large size case. This on the table here at the very end, I'll show you how we pack it up. It's about the size of a violin when you're done. It's a full-size guitar, gets put away. So a guitar becomes an intimate small part of your kit rather than being a big thing that you have trouble fitting into a car.
So it sounds as good as any bona fide electric guitar. So does it sound better or does it sound as good?
It's neither an acoustic nor an electric guitar, but I'm a very fussy guitar player, and I play one by choice rather than by necessity, and people like the way it sounds. Doc Watson liked the sound of it. He's one of my peers, and they're surprisingly professional instruments.
Right. So it sounds as good as a good guitar would sound?
I think the short answer is yes.
Okay. It wouldn't be cheaper necessarily. So it's basically the portability and the design.
The portability and the precision that's in the control of the player.
I don't think I could get a stage guitar for under $1,000. Not something that I would want to play and be seen with.
No, I think it'd be more than that.
Oh, way more.
Yeah.
My guitars are thousands.
I'm curious, if you're watching the live stream and you have questions, you can chime in. And we also have a roving mic. If there's anyone who has questions for Tim in the crowd, we can take those. So Tim, you're saying your plan is to manufacture them, and do you also imagine that you would be marketing them, or do you have some other thoughts about, how do you do the advertising, how do you build awareness?
Well, the key to all new guitar sales is to have endorsements. And I've been approached by well-known musicians they want to play it, and I said, well, I just can't give you one because I only have a dozen of them that I made, and they're rather precious. But that's what you do, is you make, the next step would be to make a second suite of prototypes, get them in the hands of up-and-coming professional musicians, and then you, of course, have a good video on YouTube and whatnot. It's rather formulaic. It's well known how to do it. This guitar is very different, so it will carve out its own little niche of the market.
So an online questioner wants to know how heavy is the guitar, and is it fragile or is it durable? Kind of what happens when you actually do take it on the road?
Well, it weighs I'll say it weighs 3 pounds, so it's fairly light.
Here's the guitar. I've had this on hundreds and hundreds of airplanes and festivals and slinging it around in and out of rental cars, and it's outlasted the Velcro that held the strap together. I mean, it's surprisingly tough.
And you don't have to take Tim along with you to repair it on the road?
No, it's never been fussed with. I just play it, and it holds up startlingly well.
All right.
It was kind of an experiment that worked.
And how long have you been at this?
These guitars were built about 10 years ago, the set of prototypes, and there was a period of experimentation before that, going back in time, but more as a hobby.
Any patents, IP on it?
I had 3 patents on it. Just about everything you can think of on it can be patented. My goal is to have it more be a trademark, so it doesn't have a time limit. Patents have a time limit. For example, the fabric that you can put on there. Fabric has never been part of guitar design, but it really is rather delightful to the eye. And so that's something which would be trademarkable.
All right, so we have some questions in the audience. If you can speak loud, we'll repeat. Yeah. Why hasn't it been done before? And why wouldn't someone bigger do it?
Well, there's a first time for everything. I think that this design reflects decades of deep research and experience with the guitar. I got really, really deep into the acoustics. I could go into a long discussion of, just how it creates the sound that it does. It's not simple. The grill work that you see on these guitars is graphite composite, and I had to learn how to make those molds myself because I couldn't find anybody who could make them. I had to do it myself. So it's a combination of difficulty in just conceptualization and also just being new. I decided to start making a guitar with a blank slate, saying if we start with the most up-to-date materials and the most up-to-date design tools, what do you get? And this is the result of that experimentation.
Let's take a question over here.
Yeah, is this on? I'm obsessed with the TV show Shark Tank. I don't know if you saw the instrument that was very similar to that was on the show, where they had patented just a clip right at the bottom so that it just came down in one foul swoop, and then it was just put together in like 2 seconds. I'm just wondering what the difference is between that one that was on Shark Tank that the Sharks wanted to patent out, as opposed to yours, which has a lot of components.
What that did was to take a kitchen cabinet hinge and put that at where the neck of the guitar met the body. I saw that show. And it folds the neck back, but it doesn't make the guitar any smaller. The same number of cubic inches is there. It just makes it fatter instead of longer. Yes. So it remains a wooden guitar. It has the same feedback problems. I consider that to be a very minor improvement, even if that on a guitar. I think it's more of it's a gimmick. This guitar certainly is a gimmick of a different scale, but I didn't really see that as solving the problem of portability.
Did the Sharks invest in it, or did they?
Well, what they ended up doing was they wanted to patent it out, and it was the father and son. They didn't want to have it patented out to everyone else. So what they ended up doing is many Shark Tanks later did little updates. The company has now made $4 or $5 million over the course of the last year. They've been very successful just from that little hinge change that they've done. Yep. And what the Sharks thought, and what I think about the company when I watched, was if it was patented out to all of the major guitar manufacturers, is that a route that you'd be interested in going?
Okay,
and do you
so
see
licensing,
that as being
licensing
viable?
it instead of making it yourself.
Correct, because that's where the money is.
All right. Well, I would have to say, speaking very personally, that this guitar is my life's work. I'm an optical engineer by day, that's my day job. But first and foremost, I'm a guitar maker and designer. I have been working on this design. I had the first idea for it in 1981. My first experiments were disastrous, and I gave up for 15 years because I thought I was simply going crazy. I built up my own robotics business, which I sold successfully to a public company in 1996. And then I launched into this design that you see here, and it took me 4 years to make it real. So that's really how long it's been. That's where this guitar is for me. I will do anything that moves the project forward and keeps me involved. That's my goal.
What's your vision? Do you want to build a big, valuable company, or do you want to build a smaller company that you can control, that kind of scratches a niche that you have to reach certain buyers? What's the vision?
My vision is to see this guitar get made and become popular. My ego is not involved. I don't need to be the big chief of anything. I just want to see it happen.
So there's a couple ways to do that. One way is you do it, which is, of course, the harder way to go, riskier, requires more capital, and a lot of work on your part. I don't know if you want to devote 100% of your time to this. The other way to do it is you go to a Fender, or you go to some giant guitar maker, Yamaha, whoever, hopefully better than Yamaha, and you license it to them, and then they, in turn, manufacture it, and you get a royalty on each one. In both cases, the guitar gets manufactured, and it gets distributed, and people use it. In one case, you control it. In the other case, they control it.
Sure, I understand the difference. This guitar is of such a different type from previous guitars that I would be very surprised if one of the majors would take it up, because they have products already which they can make like cookies and sell them. This one would be considered risky, and I think that this would be more successful as its own company. I can serve as a CTO for such a company, but it needs professional management. I have spoken with a Boston area company that does a lot of business. They're an industrial design firm that are deeply connected to Chinese manufacturing. And their model is you give them the job of designing it for manufacture, they arrange for all the manufacture and the quality control and the shipping, and it's, you know, kind of as a package. So I would see that route.
So how customizable is this?
Hang on, actually, let's try to bring in this one last question here. But someone actually also did ask, is it customizable? So I want to get to that.
Sure. Hi guys. Really cool looking guitar, by the way. I'm a musician as well. You just used a word that it's a very risky instrument. Guitar players are really finicky in the equipment that they use. And if you're looking for a niche type company, how would you give guitar players an opportunity to experience the guitar prior to purchasing it, knowing that it's such a specialized instrument? Because I'd imagine they'd want to try it before they buy it. Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
Sure. Well, the nature of precision molding is that a part comes out, it's what they call it the net finish. It comes out of the mold and it's ready to ship. And so I could see a model where basically a bag of parts goes to the, you know, when you see how it comes apart and goes together, you'll see that it's very easy to take as a kit and put together. If somebody doesn't like it, they send it back. It's simple as that. The guitar is infinitely customizable. We have a website. Yeah, there's a Mandocello here in the front, which is the same guitar. It has a different headstock and bridge, but that's a Mandocello. It's got 8 strings tuned differently. Harvey plays it for certain specialized music. I have made this guitar, instead of having the grills, I put on nice spruce with inlay around the edge. If you look at the website, it's chrysalisguitar.com, singular, chrysalisguitar.com, and there you can see the prototypes leading up to the current instrument, and you can see the degree of customization. I'm very excited about the fabric. I think it really makes an interesting twist on you know, guitar design. But it's kind of like a Mr. Potato Head. I expect there would be an aftermarket of, I would like the public source crowd, you know, so anybody could use the basic design.
It's going to be an app store for.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. There's, I mean, the grill could be replaced with some zigzag aluminum stamp out. I mean, all that has to happen is that there's a hole pattern, which you have of bosses that you know, the little 440 screws you have to tie in. There's about 10 on each side, and the bridge has to be in the right place. It's held on by hooks, so it's a very easy thing to design for.
If you'd like, I could get one to Slash.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right, well, I want to cut to the chase here, Todd, and ask, aside from introducing Tim to Slash, which could be the crucial connection he's been waiting for, is this a sort of deal where you would say, you know, yeah, let me give you 3 options. You know, yes, I'd do a breakfast or lunch meeting kind of to find out more. Is it, no, it's not really the kind of thing that Spark invests in, but I'd introduce you to Slash or introduce you to another investor who might be interested, or would you just kind of pass entirely and, you know, give Tim some advice? Say go back and work on it.
I would send a check.
You would seriously send a check?
No.
All right. Well, what's
Kidding.
what's your take?
No.
So I thought maybe you were going to buy the guitar
I would
for
take
yourself.
the meeting for 2 reasons. One, it's not in our sweet spot, but it's within our realm, let's say. So it's not something like an energy bar, which we would never do, but something like this, it's technology. He said optics, that's all I need to hear, stuff like that. So
there is no optics
I have a
industry anymore, so
I
you
have a
have
bad
to.
habit for optics, even though there's no optics in here. You could imagine LED strings. Imagine.
There's no limit.
Thing lights up when you play it. But anyway, what I was getting at, so it's within the greater focus that we have, not the sweet spot, but the greater focus. Our sweet spot is web-oriented businesses. And then the second thing is I like the guitar, I like music, so that would probably be enough to get me to take a meeting. So I'd take the meeting, and then based on what I saw, it would probably wouldn't be a Spark deal because I'm not sure it's a big enough market opportunity. I'm not sure you could sell enough at a high enough price to build a really large, valuable company. However, I do see how you could make a nice business out of this. It wouldn't be a venture business. It would be a business probably more for angel investors. I think the design is very cool. I haven't seen a guitar as cool, I don't think, ever. I think the customizability of it, I don't think you need to sell it for $1,000 bucks. I think you could sell them for $5,000 or $10,000, especially if they're customizable. The sound, just from that one example there, I'd have to get experts to play it and let me know if they really felt that the sound was as good, because I agree with the gentleman out there. If it doesn't sound as good as a really good guitar, I don't care how cool it is. You know, it's not going to matter. But I do think there's an opportunity. I like the fact that you've got patents. I think there are some novel items here that even if this guitar on its own was not that successful, I think there's an opportunity to monetize the IP.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank you for the questions out there. Thanks for the questions from all the webcast viewers. Harvey, Tim, thanks for coming in to do this presentation.
I would like, just to finish up, I would like to take a guitar and just break it down for you and show the late. Could you just hold this a second?
Not smash it over the podium,
Right.
because that would be a
Like,
really dramatic ending.
like Pete Townsend breaks down a guitar?
Right.
By popular request, we're playing. I couldn't think of a better way to wrap up than
Thank you very much.
His guitar and hits the road. Thank you, guys.